Well, good morning. Good morning, Eastview Christian Church. Bloomington campus in the house. And those it's normal to be here at Normal. Can we hear from you? Yeah, there we go. One church, two locations, two expressions, but today under one roof. And I'm excited to dive into and move forward of what God has in store for this family, as Evelyn so well put it, called Eastview. And it's exciting to be here and super humbling. I'm super nervous. Man, I would say this. Y'all have been through it over the last 18 months. But as I've been here, I'm a veteran now. I've been a lead pastor of Eastview for 2 months. Two things I would say really have stuck out to me that give me such encouragement. The first is I believe it is so obvious that God has been so kind and has poured out his favor continually over Eastview Christian Church. Like God has been so kind and poured out his favor over this church. The second thing I've noticed is the people of Eastview, Normal campus and Bloomington campus, are resilient. Like in the midst of circumstances not being ideal, you didn't quit coming. You didn't quit serving. You didn't quit giving. You just kept going. And to be here now is a big deal. I am so grateful for Tyler Harry, who was there on the video, and him leading in that 18-month period. I'm so grateful for our staff here at Eastview to continue going in the midst of uncertainty. I'm so grateful for the elders of Eastview to continue trying to navigate through difficult times and to bring us to this moment. It is worthy for us to celebrate and give thanks to God first and foremost before we talk about what's coming up. I want to live by this principle personally, and I hope we would live by this principle as a church. But yes, today's Vision Sunday, and so obviously we're going to talk about the future. But before we ever talk about what's next and more of what we want from God, we cannot move forward without first pausing and giving thanks and expressing gratitude to God for what he's already given. Because if we keep asking for more without first giving thanks, that just makes us a greedy, entitled people. But when we find ourselves saying thank you for what we already have, it humbles us and it gives us hopefulness of what's to come. So I want to invite you to join with me before I talk about the future, just to be what God's done in the last 18 months. Can we as one church body, as loudly as you can, there's no rules to this, let's just say thank you to God for what he has done. If you need to get to your feet and you need to start applauding and you need to say thank you for God's goodness, you need to say, God, thank you for bringing us to this place. We will not let this be something that stops us, but God, we are so thankful, 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 thankful. We're thankful. God is so faithful and good. So faithful and good. All right, sit down. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's go. I hope you didn't make lunch plans today. I hope you didn't make lunch plans because we got a lot of ground to cover. So let me give you a quick roadmap. I want to talk to you first about what I mean when I say the word vision, because clarity of definition is important and to see where that comes from in Scripture. I'm going to talk about 4 ways that we as one church, 2 locations, can join together as we move forward together. And then we're also going to just, as one church, close our time together, praying together for what God has in store. If this is your first time to Eastview, I think this is a great day to be here. But I also want to let you know, this is not a sermon today. I'm going to give a lot of information. You want a sermon? Come next week. But you're going to get a lot of information to understand who Eastview is and where we're going today. So I'm glad that you're here. All right, so let me start with what I mean when I say the word vision. And I think it seems to be obvious, right? Because when we said, hey, we're having a Vision Sunday, it wasn't like that you need to look up, what does vision mean? What's he going to be talking about? You obviously understood that we're talking about forward thinking, where we're going, what's to come, what are we going to as a church be doing? That's generally what comes to mind when we think of vision, is what we are going to do. And while there is a part of vision that is about the do, when I say the word vision, I am more interested in the who. That for us as a church, and let me just say it this way, I would say for Christians in the church, vision should always be anchored in who we're becoming and reaching more than just what we are doing. That Vision Sunday is just not about all the cool things we're gonna do. Let's talk about the big things and up and to the right and look at this and yay and hurrah. There's some fun parts about what we're going to do, but vision as followers of Jesus and the church at large should always be anchored in who we're becoming, who we're reaching, more than what we do. Who comes before the do? And I fear that sometimes we can get into this habit of just being a bunch of Jesus people, doing a bunch of Jesus things for the sake of just doing things because Jesus said to do them, and not think about why Jesus said to do them. Jesus didn't ask us to do a bunch of Jesus things just so we could be Jesus people who are busy ourselves with a bunch of Jesus stuff. He had a purpose behind saying, I want you to be about this, to do these things, because it's not about what you do. It's because as you do these things, it's about who you're becoming, because my desire is for you to become more like me, Jesus said. That is the goal and the trajectory of a follower of Jesus, is to be restored and remade into the image that was tarnished and lost when sin entered the world and entered our lives, and that Jesus wants to restore us, so that we would become more in the likeness of Christ, and as we reach other people, invite them into the same journey to become more like Jesus, not just to do a bunch of stuff. And so when I say the word vision, especially it's so important, and maybe you feel like this is not that big of a delineation, but I think it's so important for us to focus on. When I say vision, I'm talking about who we're becoming, not just what we are doing. And so what that means is vision and success becomes more about one's character versus just being creative. Vision becomes more about knowing each other's names than just touting a bunch of numbers. Vision becomes about what God is doing in the large kingdom of God versus just the castle called Eastview. And if we just do and do and do without seeking to become, then what did we gain? What did we gain? And I would say it's this way also, that the order matters. The order matters. How many of you ever have put together something and you thought you were so smart that you just skipped through some of the instructions? And then you later regretted that. Now, some of you probably have the spiritual gift of putting things together. I don't. I like to think that I do, but there are many times that I get to step 3, I'm like, really, step 3? I'm jumping to step 7. And then I do step 7, then when I try to go to 8, I realize I should have actually done 3 because now I can't do 8, so now I gotta go back, take the whole thing apart and go backwards, do 7, 6, 5, and do it all over again. Anybody else with me? The order matters. I'm not even talking about the IKEA manuals. I mean, are you kidding me? The order matters. And if we put do ahead of who, there's a problem with that. And the who needs to come before and inform the do. I would say it this way, in thinking about just some of the things that Jesus talked about, I would say this, that vision emphasizes great commandment lives overflowing into great commission actions. Let me explain what I mean by that, because the order matters. You see, Jesus gave us what was called the Great Commandment. And if you're not familiar with what that is, that's in Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 through 40. When he was asked, what's the greatest of commands? He simply said this, to love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. He says, and he goes, and this is the first and the greatest commandment, and the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All of the law and prophets hang on these 2 commandments. So when he was told or asked what was the greatest commandment, he said, it's to love God supremely and to move towards loving others unconditionally. but it was an emphasis on love. That was first and foremost, is how can we become more loving of God, and from that become more loving of those around us, the people. That was first. And it wasn't until the end of his life when he was about to ascend that he actually gave what's known as the Great Commission, which is Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 and 20. Reads like this. He says, therefore go, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always until the end of the age. You see, the Great Commission is more emphasizing the do, where the Great Commandment is emphasizing the who. And I think one of the tragedies, sadly, maybe in the whole church, but at least the Western American church, is we have, and it's a good thing, we've been so preoccupied with making disciples, which is do, reach, but we haven't paid attention to who we actually are becoming and the type of people we're trying to make disciples into. And so if we only focus on making disciples at the expense of actually loving God supremely and beginning to love others unconditionally, then the very disciples that we create might not actually have love. And Jesus says, then what's the point? You can make a bunch of jerk disciples in the name of Jesus. Congratulations. But Jesus says, no, I care a lot about how much you pursue me, how you love me, how you fall deeper in love with me. And from that, you gain my heart, which is my then love for my children, my people. And as you become filled with the love of God, and then you say, I want to reach people, you are doing so, inviting them to know their Creator, to love their Creator, become more like Jesus in what they do. And they then will go reach others. And love gets deposited along the way versus just duty and jerkness, if that's even a word. Because the order matters. And so when we talk about vision, yes, we're going to talk about things that we do, but we're going to talk a lot about who we're becoming and the character that God is cultivating in our hearts. And that's what I want to champion more than the latest and greatest accomplishment. Are you with me? There's a difference there. And so what I want to do is spend the rest of the time, I want to share 4 ways that here at Eastview, we can move into this pursuit of becoming more like Christ. And yes, there's a doing part of it, but there's a purpose behind it, and that's becoming. And this is going to be the same 4 things, both at the normal campus as well as at the Bloomington campus. And likely every Vision Sunday, henceforth, you'll hear these 4 things and just variations, but this is what we want to pursue as a people, to become more like Christ, to reach other people for Christ. And those 4 things is to give our lives over to be a people who connect, serve, give, and invite. Connect, serve, give, and invite. And I want to break those down to say why those are important and what exactly that looks like here at Eastview. So let me start with just the word connect. We first want to seek becoming more like Christ through this invitation of connection, because connection cultivates belonging. I am of the belief, it's not always the case, but I am of the belief that when people begin to believe that they are seen and known and feel like they belong, that's the first step to them actually wanting to believe in whatever you invite them to believe in. Sometimes, once again, the order matters. Sometimes we're trying to get people to believe, and they're like, I don't really feel like I'm anything more than a project for you. And so how do we as a people start moving towards this notion of come as you are, but let us not stay as we are, right? Whoever you are, whatever you've done, however you feel, like come to connect, because we want people to feel seen and known and valued. And so we would pursue that idea of connection so people can feel like they belong, so you feel like you belong. Now, here's a few ways that you can get connected here at the church. And these, what I'm gonna share here is not gonna be like, whoa, that was revolutionary. It's just a reminder. Because here's one thing that's so important also. When you talk about vision becoming about who versus do, we need to champion the everyday, mundane moments just as much as, if not more than, all the manufactured, monumental moments. Because following Jesus every day, not just Sunday. And Sunday, we work hard to make it like this. You don't go home and have this in your house. So, few ways to connect in order to belong. First is Sunday services. We do care about you being here. Now, online is wonderful, and we're going to continue to express ourselves in that medium, but we'd prefer that you're here in person, both at Normal or at Bloomington, because it allows us to come together and be with one another, to see faces, to rub shoulders, because the church is a body. And so what does it look like for you to prioritize and say, as an individual, as a family, we want to try to do our best to be here as much as we can on Sundays at either campus. And as you come, we're going to continue to kind of change things up. I know you're starting to notice that I'm tweaking the dials a little bit. I want us to be a church that continues on Sunday services to be consistently inconsistent. I want to keep you on your toes on purpose. And here's the thing, whenever you see a certain dial tweaked, it doesn't mean that's going to be permanent. I might just be messing with you on purpose. Some of you are like, are we having flags now? Maybe. Maybe not. Guess you have to come back next week and see. I don't know. But we want you to be here. In terms of what you can expect as far as teaching, because I've had this question. I'm not going to preach every week because I don't want to. And I don't think it's good for me to. And the elders thought that as well. I was excited. I'll preach 30 to 34 times a year. It's important for you to have other voices speak into your spiritual formation and not just mine. And sometimes I don't want to be at Normal. I want to go to Bloomington. And sometimes I just don't want to preach at all. Because it's important, like last week, that I went to see the high school service. And then I went to the junior high service. And then I went to the second and third grade service. And then I actually went in the family room and I typed to somebody online. I think that freaked them out. They didn't reply back. But we want to continue to have different voices. So I'll preach the majority. Ben Miller, who did a fantastic job last week, you'll see him continually preach. Steve Carter is going to continue to preach. Some of you love Steve Carter. I'm going to introduce you in October to my good friend Ricky Jenkins. That's going to be a blast. And then some other people here at staff are going to be sharing as well. So you can expect to see me preach a lot, but also I'm going to roam around a lot so I can love on people and actually know names more than just you being a number and some random face. We want to continue to strive towards being unified in diversity. There's so many different ages, different life stages, colors of skin, genders. I would love to see our church become more colorful. I'd love for us to continue to find unity in a diversity of expressions, whether it be at the Normal campus or the Bloomington campus. I mean, I was in San Diego for 10 years. It looks a lot different than this. And it's not that you make it San Diego, but there's a beauty and a foretaste of heaven when you see lots of people gathering together. And so I'm hopeful for that. As far as some of you guys are like, you're the numbers people, so I'll give you some numbers. Over the last year, we've had 3,350 as the average attendance, including students and kids here at the Normal campus. 350 is the average weekly attendance at the Bloomington campus, including students and kids. And then we have another 1,560 unique devices each week watching the service online, for a total currently of 5,260 people that are joining in on a weekly basis calling Eastview their home church. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. And next week, as we kick off this new series called Practicing Jesus, I'm hopeful that we'll have more and that you'll be a part of that and say, I'm gonna be in this for this series. So services are one part of connection. Another thing is to connect in a group. That this 5,260 is way too big. You cannot know everyone, but everyone needs to know someone. And the way you start to know someone is getting in a smaller group called a small group. We want you to be a part of a group. Because so many of the things in the scriptures, in terms of even the word obedience, to do what Jesus said to do, always involve a one another. right? Love one another, forgive one another, be hospitable to one another. You can't one another without one another. Spirituality was not meant to be done in isolation. And so we want you to get in circles more than just rows and to be in households or places and be a part of a group of people, to dig into the word, to pray together, to serve together, to practice the ways of Jesus together, to be in a group. That's why next week's launch is such a big deal, because we want everyone to try to be in a small group. Currently, we estimate roughly about 47 to 50% of you are in a small group. We love for that number to grow. We love to have that number grow. And there's a lot of new groups being offered in this Practicing Jesus series. So be a part of a group, because you cannot one another without a one another. And then ministries. There are so many other ways also to connect. We have a ton of ministries, and I can't highlight all of them, but I do want to highlight two of them. Particularly at the Bloomington campus, Celebrate Recovery is an amazing ministry that God is working through. That if you have some type of a hang-up or a hurt or a perpetual habit that is bringing you down, breaking relationship with God and breaking relationship with other people, this has been such an amazing ministry. And it's my hope, I don't have a date on it, but to offer that also at the normal campus sometime in the next year. I want to begin to do that because it's important for us not to live in bondage, but to move towards freedom. So consider checking out Celebrate Recovery. The other ministry that I've just been so amazed by is the single moms ministry here at Eastview. It launched out of the Bloomington campus, but now it's at both campuses. 2 Sundays a month at Bloomington, 2 Sundays a month at Normal. And God is just working so incredible in that demographic and saying, this is where you're at in life, but this is not where you stay in life, and people are gonna rally around you and your beautiful kids, and we're gonna keep moving forward to the dreams that God has for your life. And so if that's the demographic you find yourself in, or a demographic that you'd love to serve and help, those are two great ministries. There's just so many ways to get connected here at the church, and as you feel that you connect, it helps us cultivate that idea of belonging. So connect is the first way in our journey towards becoming. Second thing is serving, to serve. And the reason this is important is because I think service then cultivates belief. When you begin to be on mission with another person and begin to consider others more significant than yourself, and you begin to serve those around you, I believe it gives great credibility and substance to what Jesus said. And you're like, wow, he actually said to give your life away and you'll find your life. And that's true. He actually said that it's more blessed to give than receive. And so as I give myself to serving somebody else, to love my neighbor as myself, I actually see that the ways of Jesus have some validity, some teeth to it, and it helps me begin to believe, and I already feel like I belong because I'm connected with the people that I'm serving with. That we're not meant to just be consumers in the church, but we are to be contributors, and ways that we contribute is through serving, to be active. Now, I'm gonna share with you a few ways here at Eastview, but the mindset of service is not just Eastview related. You can serve every day at your office, your job, in your home, while you're waiting in line at some store. But that we would be servants because we're followers of Jesus, and that is a call to go low, to lift others up. Yeah. That's what Jesus did for us. Now, I think maybe you got this or maybe you didn't, but you can pick this up. There's this nice little card that gives you lots of ways to get involved here at Eastview. And I know when you look around the room, you see lots of people here probably thinking, man, they don't need any help. You're wrong. I asked our staff this week and they had a ton of ways that people can get involved. Let me just highlight a few areas, and I encourage you to take one of these, fill this out, bring it to the information center after service, and write down NC or BC, Normal Campus, Bloomington Campus, so to get involved. But we want to be a church that continues to champion and invest in the next generation. As you saw in the video, God is doing such a great work in Eastview Kids and in junior high and senior high, and we need more incredible men and women to pour into those young men and women, because it's hard in that life stage. It's more difficult to navigate through that life stage than it is for you to actually take an hour and sit with them and help them process. And we invite you. I'm a father of 4. I implore you, help Jamie and I as we try to raise our kids in this really peculiar environment. Have great men and women of God reinforce these things and help them. And so to serve in Eastview kids or students, And by the way, the students are leading the way here. They're a driver in the last 18 months. I mentioned a moment ago that there's around 47 to 50% of adults in small groups. There's over 100% of junior hires and senior hires in small groups. They have more students in small groups than who actually come to the services. That's amazing. It's amazing. So to serve perhaps in that realm, guest services, which is like greeters, parking, we need help in that. We need more people to like be a great big smile at the door. About 2 weeks ago, I got here really early and I was talking to one of the people on the parking team and I said, thank you so much for what you do. And it was like 6 or 6:30 in the morning. He's like, yeah, there's only 6 of us left. There used to be like 30. So I was like, I'm gonna tell everybody to be on the parking team then. You might take that for granted because it's like all organized and turn this way and turn that way. Do you know somebody does that? And maybe that someone could be you. We need more people in the guest services and the welcome environments. Our sports ministry here reaches so many people, always looking for coaches, good referees, good referees. That helps like people live out the Christian life way better. The food pantry, you saw the numbers. 5,033 households in the last year have gone through this food pantry. And we need people to serve, and not just to serve the food, but to walk our guests through the pantry, to pray with them and encourage them. We're always in need of more volunteers there. The community center, downtown Bloomington, really got our eyes on that for this next year and trying to figure out better ways that we can invite more small groups and other places to serve in that blessing that we have of a facility there, downtown Bloomington. Yeah. I mentioned the single moms ministry. One of the things they said is they need mature believers who will commit to mentoring the kids of single moms. Yeah. Because there's not a father figure perhaps in their life or only half the time. That is a great way to serve and to love others. We have an incredible special needs ministry, and we have kids who need buddies on Sunday mornings to be there beside them and with them. These are ways to get involved, and we love for you to say, I'm not just gonna come and just listen to a message, sing some songs, and say whether it's good or not, but I wanna actually get engaged. And it's gonna help, I believe, all of us believe more in the way Jesus called us to live. So we connect, we serve, and then we give. Who's excited about the give portion? That wasn't what I was going, that was very few of you. This whole section right here, none of you clapped. That's why you sit up there, isn't it? Generosity cultivates buy-in. Jesus said, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Some translations say where your investment is, your heart will be also. I believe it is so true that you can look at someone's bank account, you can follow the trails of their investments, and you quickly see what matters most to them. Jesus knew this. This is why he talked about money so much, because he knew money is the pathway to our heart, and God cares deeply about our heart, because you cannot become more like Christ unless Jesus has control of your heart, and the best way he gets control of your heart is when he gets control of your pocketbook. I know we don't like that, but that's how it is. And as followers of Christ, in God's economy, there is an order, and the order matters, right? That God would invite us to say, how do we be a people who give first, save second, and live off the rest? You give first, you save second, you live off the rest. Sadly, and it's not just American culture, but it's American Christians as well in the culture, flip that formula upside down. We live first, save second, give what's left over. Did you see that? We get paid, praise the Lord. We live off of it. Maybe we got some left to save, so then we can live more later. And then we give what's left over. And God's like, that's why your hearts are far from me. Give first, save second. Live off the rest. And so I do want to invite you to move in the form of investment here at Eastview. Now, this is something I think may be unique, I don't know, but it's something I think is so important. For the next few minutes, what I wanna do is, if we're encouraging you to be a people of generosity and to give of the money that you do earn, I understand, and I know inflation, I get all that stuff. I think it's so important for you to know where your money goes. I think it's important to understand whether or not you feel like there's a good ROI. What's the return on my investment? That's not why we give, but I know if I'm you, I'd be like, where's the money go? And so what I wanna do for a few minutes is just open our books to you, okay? I want you to see as you give where the money goes. I want you to know that I'm 2 months into this, and so this is the budget that we have. Our fiscal year starts September 1 and ends August 31st. So we are just now starting a brand new fiscal year. And so when you give to Eastview Christian Church, I can tell you now, over the next year, this is how it's allocated. I want you to see that. It doesn't mean it's gonna stay this way. There are a lot of numbers I'm excited to start kind of tweaking some dials on, but I want you to see this is where your money goes, okay? So now some of these numbers, they're gonna be like, wait, what? Like, this is crazy, how much money? That's how I still feel that way. The operating budget, along with what we anticipate, God willing, will be the Christmas offering, which I'll talk more about here in just a moment, that in this next fiscal year, God willing, there'll be $10.9 million that comes through Eastview. That's like 5 times the church budget I had in California. So I don't take that lightly. I'm like, are you kidding me? $10.9 million? So where's it go? 48% will go towards personnel. I think we have an amazing staff, and our desire is to have a great staff, pay that staff well, to give them benefits when they're full-time, and currently budgeted, not all filled right now, there are 83 staff members budgeted for next year's, and that is equivalent to 66 full-time equivalent, FTE, for those of you who know what that is. So 48%, so a little under half when you give goes to paying the staff of this church, which I think they do a fantastic job. The things that take place here happen because of all the different people that are involved. I think it's worthwhile. 15% goes towards facilities and operations, both at the Bloomington campus and the Normal campus. There's a lot of space here. Just turn on the lights, air conditioning, heating. Trust me, you might not like 15%, but the moment you're cold or you're hot, you'll let us know. You will. So there's the operating cost that just goes with it. Whether it be the facilities, utilities, building services budget, both campuses, 15% of what you give goes to facilities and operations. 12% is earmarked towards future ministry and capital projects. Well, what that means is a part of that is sitting there as we try to pay attention to what the Spirit is doing and say, God, what would you have for us? That there's some money there that we can move forward as God provides opportunities. There's also things that are capital improvements. When we're changing things. And just so you know, there's probably gonna be some things that change. There's probably gonna be some different colors, different fonts, different expressions. There's gonna be some things that we shift and change. And as you shift some of that stuff and change signage or that kind of stuff, that has a price tag to it. We're working on a renovation of the office area so that we can actually have more space together to be together versus siloed. That costs money to do that. And so capital projects we save 12% towards. And I mean, as much as you're like, we need a new soundboard. This one's been here since I think 20 years. Did you know technology's changed in 20 years? That costs money, it just does. It's not sexy, but it's important. So 12% in future ministry and capital, 11% goes to generosity endeavors. Money that we give away or send out to further ministry outside the walls of Eastview Christian Church. Now, I think that's an important number to look at because most companies, Fortune 500 companies, give an average of 1% to 2% away of their annual revenue. So 11% is really good compared to other companies. And most American Christians on average give 2% to 4%. So we're beating that one too. But I will say that is an area that I am hopeful to continue to see that number go up. I do. I really want to see that number continue to go up. What that includes is we invest in domestic church planting. Globally, we have partners in Kenya, El Salvador, Haiti, and we'll talk more in just a moment about this Christmas offering that we're gonna give money away. Now, this generosity bucket of 11% also helps out at times, including, maybe some of you saw this, there was a press release this week. We gave $50,000, or given $50,000 to help the homeless encampment issue downtown Bloomington. This is one of those things that, like, when you start your job and you're like, wait, what? We gotta take care, you gotta take care of that, okay. But you've seen it, sometimes it's referred to as Tent City. And we have had the privilege to work alongside the city, Home Sweet Home Ministries, as well as Salvation Army, knowing the cold and the winter is coming, to figure out what are we gonna do with the unhoused individuals that are in these tents. And we were able to say, we're gonna work with the city, who's gonna provide some emergency ordinances so that they can move into the Salvation Army indoors. Home Sweet Home is gonna help provide some different employees and people to help serve. Eastview is giving $50,000 to help pay for those resources, as well as to continue to be there to help as well. And I wanna read to you the letter that we received from the city manager, an email he sent Friday afternoon. And this is just a foreshadowing of what I hope our church is always known for here at Eastview. This is beautiful. Can I read this to you? I hope he's okay with me reading it. I don't know if he knew I was gonna read it to 5,000 people, but. He says, as the day comes to a close, this is the city manager of Bloomington. As the day comes to a close, I found myself thinking of all of you and reflecting on the past months and the homeless challenges facing our community. It would not have been right to let the day get by without me expressing my heartfelt gratitude for the tremendous efforts undertaken by you and your teams at Eastview and Home Sweet Home to care for the homeless in our community. I know this past year has been anything but easy, and I'm certain today was particularly difficult. Tommy, referring to Tommy Nika, who is on staff at Eastview for our community outreach, and Matt, referring to Matt Burgess, who is the CEO of Home Sweet Home, he says, in getting to know you over the past few months, I know you truly care about the people you're serving. Your efforts to offer hope, dignity, and a path forward for those in our community who need it most are deeply admirable and truly appreciated. Eastview's remarkable $50,000 contribution to the Salvation Army, which will enable them to expand operations through the winter months, is extremely inspiring. While it's no surprise that Eastview would step up in such a meaningful way, think of that statement. Dang. Well, it's no surprise that Eastview would step up in such a meaningful way. The impact of this generosity will be deeply felt. The donation not only helps shelter people from the cold, but also offers hope and promise. Your organizations are making a real difference in our community, and I want to take a moment to express my gratitude. Thank you for all of your leadership, your compassion, and for all you do to support those in need. Please know that the city remains fully committed to working alongside of you to find long-term solutions for these critical issues. Bloomington City Manager. It's amazing, incredible. So 11% generosity, 8.5% goes to ministry budgets, whether that be our next gen ministries, adult ministries, groups, Bloomington campus, different endeavors there, CR. I mean, we've got different things that money goes to for ministry budgets. And then currently 6% goes to paying off debt for the mortgage here. Now, I want to tell you this is super exciting. December 2025, the last payment on this building will be made. Freeing up $619,000 a year. You want to talk about having some fun with a lot of money? Yeah. So that's where your money goes. Now, two ways to give, and I'm running out of time. I got so much stuff to talk about. Two ways to give. One is to the general offering. That's what we talk about every single week. Now, when you give, Bloomington and normal funds all go into one bucket and then get budgeted. Just know that. So when you are at Bloomington, you write a check, it goes to Eastview. When you have a normal check, it goes to Eastview, and then it's dispersed to both campuses. I encourage you, start somewhere, consistently. Move from something to maybe choosing a percentage. Move from percentage to eventually maybe what does it look like to give a tithe, which is like 10%. Eventually from a tithe to going above and beyond. Let's choose to give consistently. Last year, there were 1,772 unique givers. That number was down 397 people. or unique households. Eastview did drop 14 to 16% in this time. So it shifted. And we're inviting people to jump back on board in that. Now, here's some things I just want to like put the elephant in the room. Some things you may be thinking in the giving bucket that are important to talk to you about. First off, maybe you're thinking, dude, this place is Disneyland. They don't need any more money. I mean, that's what I thought when they asked me to take the job. I think it. You're right. You're right. And there are going to be investments more at times in this facility, in the Bloomington campus. There is things like that will happen. But as we become moving this direction, even becoming more debt-free, I want to tell you as the pastor, we're going to do our absolute best to invest money more in people than places and continue to move in that direction. Perhaps you're thinking, okay, well, they have a lot of other people, so they don't need my money. Once again, you're right. You're right. We don't need your money, and God doesn't need your money. But Jesus said he wants us to be a generous people. And in order to spread the gospel and to reach people and to feed people and to clothe people and to help people, both here and overseas, there is resources necessary, and you are the means to those resources. We need to be a generous people. Perhaps you're thinking, oh my gosh, the new pastor's all about money. Not entirely, but yeah, you're right a little bit. I'm only about money to the point of like, I want our hearts to be fully in God's hands. In the Practicing Jesus series, when we talk about generosity, I'll tell you all about my personal finance background, and it wasn't pretty. And I have a passion to have your heart in God's hands because I've seen what happened when I put my heart in God's hands when I gave him my money. And one of the most tangible ways I've experienced God is when I've been generous faithfully and consistently, and I want that for our church. I want a lot for our church. And just in case you're wondering, does the pastor give? I wonder if he's just asking us to give, but he didn't give. Yes, he does. Currently, Jamie and I give 12% of our income to Eastview Christian Church and another 3 to 4% to other organizations and child sponsorships. So we give roughly 15 to 17% of our income completely away each year. I don't tell that to brag. I just say it. I want you to know I'm not asking you to do anything that we are not trying to do as well and leading the way in. All right? Believe in that. I believe in that. So general offering is one way to give. Second, let me talk to you about the Christmas offering, and then we gotta keep moving. Here we go. Christmas offering. You may be familiar with the term EMO, Expanding Ministry Offering. This is going to be kind of a nuance of that, but it's gonna be called now the Christmas offering. And the Christmas offering will take place on December 15th. And in this kind of shift, that the Christmas offering, we're trying to have all the money that you give go outward and impact people's lives. Okay, so here's what it looks like. There's gonna be 4 particular initiatives that I wanna share with you. We'll drill down on these more in November as we move to December. But the first thing is this Christmas offering is gonna go towards personal impact. In November, we're gonna invite you to become the eyes of Christ, and I want you to nominate people and organizations that you believe could use an extra blessing during that time of year. There'll be an online process. You simply nominate them, and then I'm gonna write a letter and send a check to them. I'm not personally sending the check. I mean, it's the money from the church. But it's you seeing people, or you having a passion for organizations. And God willing, over $250,000 we're going to send out to the people you nominate this Christmas offering. That's the first, is personal impact. The second, local impact. We want to continue to have food in the food pantry. And so it's going to go towards $150,000. God willing, will go towards buying more food for the year in order to give to people through the food pantry. Another $150,000, God willing, going to our community center and the outreach efforts that they do in that space, in that west side of Bloomington, and trying to continue to move forward and helping individuals and meeting the needs of the hurt and the broken. There is next gen impact. A part of the money will go towards scholarshiping students to go to camp. You've seen what resulted in that. And so we want to continue to provide camp scholarships through those funds. And then global impact, that we want to continue to even fortify even stronger our partnerships with Kenya, El Salvador, Haiti, and perhaps offer some new partnerships down the road. But here's what I'm asking you in terms of the Christmas offering. What would it look like if you began right now considering, how could you give $600 to that offering? Some of you are like, crazy. That's all right. So what kid you give? Some of you are like, I could write that check right now. Well, cool, then add a 0 to it. I mean that. But we're gonna come together, we're gonna give sacrificially, and we're gonna give it away, and we're gonna celebrate wildly, see how God works through it. Are you excited about that? I hope so. Last but not least, invite. That invitation cultivates breakthrough. We want to invite you to continue inviting people to be a part of what God is doing in this church. Whether it's inviting them to a Sunday service, inviting them to be a part of a small group, inviting them to coffee and just spending time with them and listening to them, praying with them. Perhaps God gives you an opportunity to share the good news of Jesus with them. But it cultivates breakthrough because when you start to see God use you in the life of somebody else, it deepens your faith and trust in God. And actually then says, God, I just want to continue to walk in step with your spirit. And it results in breakthrough for you and results in breakthrough for those that God works in you to minister to. And so keep being a people that invite people to this church. We love other churches and communities. If they say they go somewhere else, then don't try to persuade them here. It's okay for them to go somewhere else. We're one church. But keep inviting people and be intentional in your efforts. As we move forward, we want to be about who we become and who we reach more than what we just do. And in doing so, I invite you to be a people who invite, serve, give, connect. There will be changes that take place. I know that. I promise to always be honorable and honest of what changes are made. Try to share with you openly just things that we're working through. There'll be times you probably love my sermons, and other times you're like, that was not very good. I know. But let's work together as one church, 2 locations, 2 expressions, to see God work in and through this bride called ECU to make a resounding impact in Bloomington Normal and far beyond. And let's do it together and become the people of God. Amen. Amen. I want to close out by inviting Mark Dossett to the stage. Can you guys give it up for Mark?